Hey everybody, it's your old pal Tom here on the Tom Gulley Show. Tonight, let me tell you about the Rat Pack. That's right. Frank, Dean, Sammy, Joey Bishop, Peter Lawford. But that's not really the Rat Pack. First of all, I'm going to tell you, all of you cats and kittens out there, that the Rat Pack began long before Las Vegas and those guys smoking cigarettes and drinking on stage. It started long before that. And that original iteration of the Rat Pack, like the Rat Pack we all came to know and love, is much broader than just the people you think it is. These were people that had professional associations and drank and caroused and socialized. And I'm going to tell you that the Rat Pack had its hands in all sorts of pies, including the election of a United States president. And I'm basically going to tell you a lot of things you didn't know about the Rat Pack. So if you want to be hip, if you want to be one of the coolest cats in the club, you're going to listen to this edition of the Tom Gulley Show. And before we get going too far here, luck be a lady tonight. Luck be a lady tonight. Stick with me, baby. I'm the cat that you walked in with. Luck be a lady tonight. Anyway, yeah. This, of course, is our cold open. We do this for our audio podcast listeners, because if they just walked into this joint and they heard these songs I'm going to play in a second, by the way, created by Leon Kennedy, and tonight's songs will be very Rat Pack. We're going full-on Rat Pack with our Tom Gulley Show introduction songs. Songs that, by the way, allow people to file in to our interactive YouTube chat room. We do this cold open to let them know, yes, a talk show will follow. But I got to give people a little time, so they and their dame can go get a good seat for the show. Sure. And by the way, if you're listening to us on demand on YouTube or on one of the 30 audio podcast platforms that we're on, you don't have to listen to the songs. You'll be a square if you don't, but you don't have to. All you have to do is scroll through it to the top of the show at the top of the hour, and that'll make you tops as well. Can you dig it? Anyway, I'm going to straighten out the bow tie on my tux, pour myself a little snifter of you-know-what, and then, after these truly swinging Rat Pack-esque songs about, well, me and the Tom Gulley Show, let me tell you about the Rat Pack.
There's a room with a restless air, voices rising everywhere. Most fall wide or miss their mark till one cuts through and stops the spark. No long road, no winding tale, just the right thought set to sail. The room goes still for half a beat, then the band comes in complete.
The point, my pal, you saw it land
right in time with a swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land
right in time with a swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at just to be heard, dressing noise up into words. But Mr. Gulley lifts a hand and the room falls in with a band. No flourish, nothing grand, just a thought you understand. When the rhythm nods along, you know you've landed something strong.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land.
Right in time with the swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land.
Right in time with the swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you. Trumpets rise, the rhythm swells. Saxes know when timing tells. Every note knows when to stand and when to leave it in Tom's hands. Yeah.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land.
Right in time with the swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you.
That's the point, my pal, you saw it land.
Right in time with the swing of the band.
That's the point, my dear, you saw it too.
Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you. They said the night was crowded, too many voices in the room. Some burn bright for a moment, some fade out far too soon. I've watched the doors swing open, I felt them close just as fast. You learn to mind your footing on a floor made out of glass. I've been counted out, I've been counted wrong. I've heard the doubts get loud and strong. When the lights go out and I play that song, I'm still on. I've had nights full of promise, I've had days that wouldn't end. Some chase the sound of thunder, some wait for trends to bend. I've seen the door swing wide open, I've seen them slam just as fast. You learn to move with some caution on a surface built to crash. talk about the past. Let them say it doesn't last. I don't need the wind forever. I just need to run one more mile, one more honest soul. I've been counting up, I've been counting wrong. I've heard the doubts get loud and strong. When the lights go out and I play that song, I'm still on. Yeah, I'm still on. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going home. Yeah, I'm still on.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking tonight? Let me tell you, cats and kittens, about the Rat Pack. That's right. Frank and Dean and Sammy and Joey and Peter and the whole gang. And it extends far beyond those people. Way beyond those people. And that wasn't even the original Rat Pack. I'm going to tell you about them as well. And all during me telling you about them, I realize there are younger people listening to and watching the show. I myself am old, and I'm probably not old enough to have totally really experienced the Rat Pack, although I'm very familiar with it. I will relate to you what these older members of the Rat Pack were in terms of Hollywood and entertainment, in terms that you, the modern day listener, can understand. Why do I do it? Well, that's what makes it such a beautiful gesture on my part. Before we get going, if you could do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Man, those things, they don't cost you a penny, only cost you a click. Clicks don't cost anything. You guys know that. You haven't been billed for a click your entire life. And they really help us out with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. We also have the super chats, the memberships, the gifted memberships. If you'd like to support the show, it really helps out. In addition, if you go to our YouTube description or our audio podcast description, excuse me, there's our PayPal, which, you know, kind of cuts the middleman out of the process. I don't want to mention any names. Might rhyme with oogle. Anyway, also we have the TomGulleyShow.com, where there's a lot of stuff there, including our merchandise store, where there's a wide variety of top quality name brand items that will charm and beguile your friends at parties. And isn't that the most important thing? Parties. The Rat Pack would say yes. Anyway, let's go to our chat room very quickly. Leon Kennedy, our musical director here, he says, I think you have plenty of good songs to play for this episode. And I just did. And yes, Leon Kennedy has bestowed upon us a whole bunch of swinging big band music. Judy Tester is here. She says, Tom, are you a boingo boy or a bongo bro? I don't know what either of those things are. I think she explains it in a second. Libertarian Expert is here. He says, did somebody say swinging? Yes. And yes. Judy Tester says, bingo bongo is like oingo boingo, but more female, autistic, and immunodeficient. Well, I do like oingo boingo. I have tons of oingo boingo. I also like Shakespeare's sister, if we're getting alliterative. Randy, the chef himself, says the crew is in the house. So hello to everyone there at Geraldine's Supper Club and Lounge in Indianapolis, Indiana, just off Fountain Square on English Avenue, where you will get the finest steaks just as thick as you like them. Each and every day. Oh, I think this is oyster night again. And who doesn't love oyster night? That's a cause for celebration. People squeal with delight when they hear about oyster night. So let me tell you about the Rat Pack, shall I? Shall I tell you about the Rat Pack? The Rat Pack was an informal group of singers at its core. Then in its second iteration, ultimately made movies and appeared together in Las Vegas casino venues. But that's not the original Rat Pack. Oh, no. That's not even close to the original Rat Pack, okay? The term Rat Pack was first used to describe a group of friends in New York City, and there have been many explanations offered for that name. According to one version, Lauren Bacall, yes, the legendary actress Lauren Bacall, kind of the, big actress of the time in her day. She saw her husband, Humphrey Bogart, and his friends returning from a night in Vegas and said, "You look like a GD Rat Pack." And thus the name was born. Rat Pack, by the way, is a term of reference to the home of Bogart and Bacall, who were the super couple of their day. Bogart was the king of cool. He was the king of Hollywood. And he married a very, very much younger than him, Lauren Bacall, back in the day. In fact, they referred to their group as the Holmby Hills Rat Pack, which was the neighborhood that Bogart and Bacall lived at. And it served as the regular hangout of that same group of friends during the late 40s and early 50s. Okay, so this original Rat Pack, not as famous because they didn't necessarily perform together all the time, and they didn't like adopt the mantra and put it out there in the world as much as the second Rat Pack, but it was a Rat Pack nonetheless. And it was a group of friends that were made up of the Hollywood elite at the time. And I am talking as elite as you can guess. And when I say they socialized, I mean they drank. And they drank a lot. And they didn't drink orange juice, they drank booze. Hard drinks for men who want to get drunk fast. And the members of that original Rat Pack, arguably bigger Hollywood stars than what would become the second Rat Pack. Arguably. I'm not saying that they were. Okay? I'm just saying. And the first Rat Pack, like the second Rat Pack, was way bigger than what you think of as the Rat Pack. It's not just a couple of people. It is an extensive group of people. And that first Rat Pack included Errol Flynn, who was maybe the top movie star idol of the time. Think of a Tom Cruise. It also included Ava Gardner, who interestingly would later marry the head of the second Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra. It included Nat King Cole, who was kind of the Drake of his time. You know, he was the big singer and artist. Robert Mitchum, a tough guy actor, just a man's man down to the core. It included Elizabeth Taylor, who was from England, but she was the top female movie star at the time. It also included a couple, and that couple was Janet Leigh. You know her as the woman who was dispatched with in the shower in the movie Psycho. And her husband, of course, Tony Curtis, who was in The Sweet Smell of Success. Think of Ben Affleck and Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. That's what this couple was like at the time. Also included Mickey Rooney, who frankly was probably a bigger movie star when he was younger. He was in a series of movies playing a character named Andy Hardy. And he was kind of a comic little guy, kind of a Jack Black. Also, Lena Horne, big singing star and performer of the day. It included Jerry Lewis, who not only, he was like a Ben Stiller. Not only was he comedic on his own, but he wrote movies, he directed movies, he sang hit songs, he did everything, Jerry Lewis, and was partnered with, ironically, a member of the second Rat Pack, Dean Martin. He started out, it was Martin and Lewis. They were a comedy team. Cesar Romero was a member of the first Rat Pack. Probably the best way to reference him for younger audiences is if you've ever seen the original Batman TV series, Cesar Romero played the Joker on that TV series. Also in that Rat Pack, and this is Hollywood legend here, Judy Garland. Everybody knows Judy Garland. She was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, but that's short selling her. She was in a number of other hit movies. Meet Me in St. Louis, for example. Ring, ring, ring went the trolley. Bang, bang, bang went the bell. Anyway, she, legendary singer and performer, had her own TV show in the 60s. You can see clips of her on YouTube singing with the greatest singing stars of all time and putting them to shame. Here's another thing about the Rat Packs, okay? They included people who weren't performers themselves. Now, according to Stephen Bogart, no relation to, the real Humphrey Bogart, at least I don't think so. The original members of the Holmby Hills Rat Pack were Frank Sinatra, who was the pack master. So technically Frank Sinatra was in both Rat Packs. Judy Garland, as I just mentioned, was the first vice president. Incidentally, Judy Garland could put him away. Okay? Judy Garland was known as a lady who could knock back a drink or two, if you know what I'm saying. Sidney Luft was what they called the cage master. And Sid Luft was a producer and a businessman, and he was also the husband at the time of Judy Garland. Also a guy in the Rat Pack who was kind of famous, but not an actor, not, a performer. And that was a guy by the name of Swifty Lazar. And you just know if a guy's name is Swifty, he's got to be famous for something. But he was a lawyer and a talent agent and a deal maker. He was a power broker in Hollywood. Here he is with Polly Bergen discussing something. But he was a real power broker in Hollywood at the time. Nathaniel Benchley was the historian. And the only way I can describe Nathaniel Benchley to you is to say he was a writer, and his son, Peter Benchley, wrote a novel they made a movie out of, and that novel was called Jaws. Yes. Also included in that Rat Pack, David Niven, who was an Academy Award-winning actor, a British war hero. Oh my gosh, the things this guy did in the war. We ought to do a show on David Niven, because his persona in Hollywood is this effete, very British, sort of witty. And let me tell you, in the war, this guy was up to some major conflicts and stuff. Also, David Niven was in The Guns of Navarone. Really good movie if you ever get a chance to see it. Katharine Hepburn was in the original Rat Pack, and she was probably the Meryl Streep of her age. I think she won at least 4 Academy Awards for Best Actress. Spencer Tracy, who Katharine Hepburn legendarily had an affair with for a long time, but she was classy about it. She didn't want the wife to find out. So, she was classy. She was very, very classy. Spencer Tracy, recognized universally as the best actor in Hollywood, or at least the actor everybody else wanted to be. I was talking with Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules in The Adventures of Hercules, and he was the lead in Andromeda. He's been on TV shows, some of the DC comic shows and stuff, even to this day. Does his own movies now. I asked him who he would most like to be from old Hollywood. He said Spencer Tracy. A lot of actors say that, and that's who Spencer Tracy was. George Cukor. Now, you may say, who in the heck is that, palling around with all these big shots? Well, he was the leading, or one of the leading, writer and directors of the day. So think of him as a Steven Spielberg. Cary Grant was in the original Rat Pack. He was Cary Grant. He had a very distinctive way of talking. He was in North by Northwest, other Hitchcock movies, and His Gal Friday. I mean, just a ton of different movies, and was known as the good-looking hunk of Hollywood. Jimmy Van Heusen, who, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see is at a piano. He was obviously a big-time composer and songwriter of the day. I think he won 4 Academy Awards. I know he won at least 1 for Best Song. And this Rat Pack group underwent several transformations. The most public of those happened under the leadership of Frank Sinatra. And I don't know if you're aware of this. We'll do a show on Humphrey Bogart someday. But after Humphrey Bogart died in 1957, very tragically of a prolonged illness, cancer, Frank Sinatra and Lauren Bacall became engaged. And it was, by some accounts, a deal where, as Bogart was marching toward his demise, and these people were all palling around together, he almost endorsed the relationship of Frank Sinatra and Lauren Bacall, even kind of a little bit before his death. So Sinatra and Bacall become engaged, and they planned a marriage while living together in one of Sinatra's homes. So Frank Sinatra then became the leader of the Rat Pack from 1957 on. And by the end of the 1950s, the Rat Pack actually evolved into an informal production group whose members not just socialized, but they united their star power to support each other's various careers and various endeavors. At that time, the Rat Pack activities expanded to Las Vegas, where the members performed regular gigs and helped each other by making unannounced appearances to impress the audiences. That was huge with the Rat Pack. It was huge. You'd be there to see Judy Garland, and in walks Frank Sinatra, completely unannounced. Audience goes crazy. In 1958, 3 Rat Pack members, and I'll get to one of them I haven't told you about, but I'll get to her in a second. Believe me, I will. I totally will. I wouldn't leave you hanging. But 3 Rat Pack members, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Shirley MacLaine, starred in a movie called Some Came Running that was popular with the public. And I should also mention that although Dean Martin had been in a lot of movies with Jerry Lewis, he wasn't really required to do much than sing and participate in Jerry's comedy sketches. Some Came Running was an early first very dramatic performance by Dean Martin that proved he could actually act, like, really well. He was a very good actor in this particular movie. And there's old Shirley MacLaine. She's also very good in Some Came Running. Some Came Running is a very good movie. You should probably go out and see it very quickly. Outstanding film. Also in 1958, a story about a series of Las Vegas casino robberies circulated among entertainers. So, one of the Rat Pack, Peter Lawford, we'll get into him a little bit later. He's got a very, very prominent role to play on the world stage, not just of an entertainment, but in the world stage of politics and power. He has a role to play there with the Rat Pack. So Peter Lawford bought the rights to this story, and Frank Sinatra became interested in the idea. Several members of the Rat Pack who were regulars in Vegas were naturally fit to lead the cast of characters in the upcoming production, which was Frank, of course, and of course Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr., and Peter Lawford, and a comic that was part of the Rat Pack named Joey Bishop. Oh, also Angie Dickinson, who's here in Rio Bravo with John Wayne, who was a smoking hot babe, still with us, by the way. Cesar Romero, who I showed you earlier, and of course, Shirley MacLaine. A variety of writers worked on this project. And the project was called Ocean's 11. Anybody ever see the movies with George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Matt Damon and Elliot Gould and the like? Yeah, that started with the Rat Pack and Frank Sinatra and his gang. The film Ocean's 11 was made between January and March of 1960 and shows several members of the Rat Pack group as they were in the late 50s and early 60s. And this sort of is unofficially referred to as the kickoff for the second incarnation of the Rat Pack under the leadership of Frank Sinatra. I should also tell you that very famously, this movie was shot in Vegas, and so they would shoot the movie during the day, and then Frank or Dean or Sam, whoever it was, would actually keep doing their Vegas nightclub show on stage at night. These guys were carousing and partying nonstop while they were making that movie. The early 60s version of the group, of course, like I mentioned, is what people traditionally believe to be the Rat Pack. It's what I call Rat Pack Classic, okay? Now, this group was originally known as the Klan, and for reasons that you can probably guess, that name fell out of favor because the word the Klan might lead you to other organizations that weren't going to make them very popular if people called themselves the Klan. Now, there was a group of people known as, and this is according to the members of the Rat Pack, the Rat Pack called these people the Rat Pack mascots. So they weren't technically in the Rat Pack, but they kind of were. And they were people that tagged along with the Rat Pack. And those people included, I don't know, Marilyn Monroe, obviously one of the big sex symbols of the day, maybe a Sydney Sweeney type, I don't know, for you youngsters. Angie Dickinson, who I mentioned earlier, Juliette Prowse, who was a dancer and a singer and an actress, but she was really known for her dancing. Here she is with Elvis Presley. Sorry, audio podcast listeners. And she had great gams. Inexplicably, and this is one of the things I kind of like about the Rat Pack, you didn't have to be A-list superstar to be in the Rat Pack. Oh, yes, of course, it helped. But you could be a guy like this guy, Buddy Greco, who was just kind of a well-known jazz and pop singer. That's all. But he probably could hold his liquor, you know. Comedian Don Rickles, who was with the Rat Pack, especially Frank Sinatra, all the time. And probably amongst the Rat Pack, who called him Rhino for some reason, was seen as a member of the Rat Pack. He wrote that I never received an official membership card, but Frank made me feel part of the fun. And yeah, Don Rickles was there for all of it. I mean, all of it. Now, earlier I mentioned, I can learn to talk this year, it'd be great. Earlier I mentioned Peter Lawford, okay? He was the brother-in-law. The brother-in-law. In fact, he was known in the Rat Pack as the brother-in-law by Frank Sinatra. He was the brother-in-law of a fella named President John F. Kennedy. And John Kennedy spent time with Sinatra and the others when he visited Vegas. There's plenty of footage of him hanging around near the pool with the Rat Pack. And during this time, members sometimes referred to the group as the Jack Pack whenever Jack Kennedy's around, because you had to. He was the guy. Rat Pack members played kind of a key role in campaigning for John Kennedy and the Democrats, appearing at the July 1960 Democratic National Convention in Los Angeles. Peter Lawford asked Sinatra if he would have Kennedy as a guest at his Palm Springs house in March of 1962, and Sinatra went to great lengths to accommodate the president, including the construction of a helipad so that Kennedy could helicopter in and helicopter out. Unfortunately, and look at Jack Kennedy's friendly, warm smile, another guy, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, advised his brother to sever ties with Frank Sinatra because of Sinatra's association with mafia figures like Sam Giancana. And so John Kennedy canceled the visit, staying instead at the home of Bing Crosby, which infuriated Sinatra. Peter Lawford was blamed for this, and Sinatra never again had a good word for him. No. Peter Lawford's role was actually written out of the upcoming Four for Texas movie, and his part in a film called Robin and the Seven Hoods was given to Bing Crosby. Yikes. Yikes. In December of 1987, long after the heyday of the Rat Pack, but still a time when the Rat Pack was remembered very fondly by a lot of people, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., and Dean Martin announced a 29-date tour called Together Again. At the press conference to announce the tour, Dean Martin joked about calling it off, and Sinatra rebuked a reporter for using the term Rat Pack, referring to it as that stupid phrase. Well, unfortunately, Dean Martin's son, Dean Paul Martin, who was, yes, a fighter pilot, died in a plane crash in March of 1987 on the San Gorgonio mountain in California, the same mountain where Sinatra's mother was killed in a plane crash 10 years earlier. Dean Martin had become increasingly dependent on alcohol and prescription drugs. Sammy Davis Jr. had hip replacement surgery 2 years previously and was estranged from Frank Sinatra because of Sammy Davis Jr.'s use of cocaine. Sammy was also experiencing severe financial difficulties and was promised by Sinatra's people that he could earn between $6 and $8 million from the tour. And that's a lot of bread. Dean Martin had not made a film or recorded since 1984, and Frank, well, he felt the tour would be good for Dean, telling Sammy Davis, I think it would be great for Dean. Get him out. For that alone, it would be worth doing. Sinatra and Sammy Davis still performed regularly, yet they hadn't recorded for several years. Both Sinatra and Dean Martin made their last film appearances together, and you may have seen this one. You may have seen it. It was in Cannonball Run 2, which also starred Sammy Davis Jr. And this marked the trio's first film appearance since 1964's Robin and the Seven Hoods. Dean Martin expressed reservations about the tour, wondering whether they could draw as many people as they had in the past. And Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. complained during private rehearsals about the lack of black musicians in the orchestra. The tour began at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum on March 13th, 1988, to a sold-out crowd of 14,500. Sammy Davis Jr. opened the show, followed by Dean Martin and then Sinatra, and after an interval, all three performed a medley of songs. During the show, Dean Martin threw a lit cigarette at the audience, and Dean withdrew from the tour after just 5 shows, stating he had a flare-up of a kidney problem. Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. continued the tour under the title The Ultimate Event, with Liza Minnelli, the daughter of Judy Garland, replacing Dean Martin as the third member of the trio, and a big star on her own. She was a smash hit in a movie called Cabaret. Your high school may have done the stage play of it. Who knows? Hey, do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, retweet. Always very much appreciated. The algorithm has been taking us into a back alley and beating us to a pulp lately. So your likes and shares will really make the difference. Wade Curtis is here. He says, happy to be here. Always enjoy hearing Tom talk about Sinatra. Well, there you go. I appreciate that very much. Sammy Davis Jr.'s associate stated that, well, Sinatra's people were skimming at the top of the revenues from concerts, as well as stuffing envelopes full of cash into suitcases after the performances. In August of 1989, Sammy Davis Jr. was diagnosed with throat cancer, which caused his death in May of 1990. He was buried with a gold watch that Sinatra had given him at the conclusion of the Ultimate Event Tour. A 1988 performance of the Ultimate Event in Detroit was recorded and shown on Showtime the following year as a tribute to the recently deceased Sammy Davis Jr. A review in the New York Times praised Sammy's performance, describing it as pure, ebullient, unapologetic show business. Concerning the group's reputation for womanizing and heavy drinking, Joey Bishop stated in a 1998 interview, I never saw Frank, Dean Martin, Sammy, or Peter drunk during performances. That was only a gag. And do you believe these guys had to chase broads? They had to chase them away. And there was a lot of made-up stuff. Now, it wasn't that these guys didn't drink, although some say Dean Martin hardly ever drank. However, I think there are some well-known examples of Dean that probably was pretty smashed. But they didn't really have a reputation for being drunk on stage at all. And Dean Martin's legendarily heavy drinking was largely, apparently, a construct of his persona and his image. And he was really good at acting like a drunken fool. Anyway, when I tell you that these guys didn't just get together for social events or hanging out. I'm not kidding. I'm not going to get into all the TV appearances. Dean Martin had Dean Martin and the Gold Diggers and the Dean Martin Roasts, and Frank was on those shows all the time, as were the others. And they would make those guest appearances like crazy and cross-pollinate on television. If they were on a talk show, oftentimes one of them would show up, quote-unquote, unannounced or, quote-unquote, unexpectedly. So they did a lot of that on TV. So much that I can't even get into it. Making it different from the original Rat Pack, who really didn't promote the Rat Pack, and they certainly didn't cross-pollinate careers-wise. You know, they might give advice or do somebody a favor, but that was it. These guys really worked together, and I mean really worked together. Let's talk about the movies. In 1947, Frank Sinatra and Peter Lawford were together in It Happened in Brooklyn. In 1956, Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. made a brief cameo appearance in Meet Me in Las Vegas. I already talked about Some Came Running, which is a critically acclaimed movie with Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Shirley MacLaine. In 1959, Never So Few, Sinatra, Peter Lawford, initially Sammy Davis Jr., who was later replaced by Stephen McQueen. Ocean's 11, we already talked about. That was Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Angie Dickinson, Joey Bishop, and a cameo by Shirley MacLaine, an Academy Award-winning actress in her own right. Sergeants 3 featured Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. People couldn't get enough of the Rat Pack. Matter of fact, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin made a cameo appearance in the Hope and Crosby film, The Road to Hong Kong, in 1962. Come Blow Your Horn, 1963, Sinatra's film, cameo by Dean Martin. Johnny Cool in 1963 had Sammy Davis, Joey Bishop, Peter Lawford. Henry Silva of Ocean's 11 was in it. 4 for Texas, Sinatra and Dean Martin. Robin and the Seven Hoods, I mentioned it earlier. Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, initially Peter Lawford, and he was replaced by Bing Crosby. Wah, wah. 1965, Marriage on the Rocks, Sinatra and Dean Martin. A Man Called Adam in 1966, Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford, who had worked together a lot, by the way. Texas Across the River, 1966, Dean Martin and Joey Bishop. Salt and Pepper, Sammy Davis Jr. and Peter Lawford in 1968. Sweet Charity, 1969. Shirley MacLaine and Sammy Davis. One More Time in 1970, the sequel to Salt and Pepper. Sammy Davis and Peter Lawford. Cannonball Run in 1981. Dean Martin and Sammy Davis. Around the World in 80 Days. That was Sinatra. Sorry, that was Shirley MacLaine. And original Rat Packer, David Niven. Sinatra had a non-speaking, non-singing role in that movie as a piano player in a saloon whose identity is concealed until he turns his face toward the camera. In a scene with Marlene Dietrich and legendary movie tough guy George Raft. You'll remember George Raft from Pulp Fiction. Plays the old guy that's running around, you know, you're Mr. Pink, you're Mr. Brown. Why don't I get be Mr. Because Mr. Black's working on another job. After this is all over, we'll go down to the beach, roll around in the surf. You'll find me a different person. Anyway. they were all in that movie together. Can you dig it? Can. Big movie. McLean was with Frank Sinatra in Can. And the Ocean's 11 movie where she had a small role, she appeared as a drunken woman just for a second. In the 1984, what the heck happened to my Can picture? I'll just put George Raft back up. In Cannonball Run 2, with Shirley MacLaine and Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr., that was the final time members of the Rat Pack shared theatrical screen time together. A biopic was made by HBO in 1998, starring Ray Liotta as Sinatra. Joe Mantegna played Dean Martin. Don Cheadle played Sammy Davis Jr. It dramatized their personal lives and, in particular, their roles in the 1960 presidential campaign of John F. Kennedy. Plenty of music out there you can get. Oh boy, if you dig in the Rat Pack. Oh, we got some chat room activity. Hello. Olive Moniker says, imagine going up against Karmic X. Hey, Olive, newsflash. Do you know how many shows are on YouTube right now? Do you? I bet you don't. I bet you don't know that 500 hours of video content is produced on YouTube every minute. Imagine Karmic X going up against the ABC News. Imagine. No matter when you go on the air on YouTube, you're up against some of the biggest content producers in the world. I dare say Karmic X, who's a good guy, I've met him, I have no problems with Karmic X. But I think even Karmic would agree, he and I aren't going after the same audience, sweetheart. I think that would be two different audiences. And I grow weary of all the Dabbleverse stuff. I can't handle one more second of it. I can't think of a less worthy pursuit or use of my time. But welcome to you for being here. We have a different kind of show going on, my dear. But thank you. Going up against Karmic X. Please. That would be like when I was a CBS News radio anchor going, imagine Karmic X going up against the CBS News. Oh, please. Wouldn't do that. Everybody's got an audience. You just do what you can do. Incidentally, look at the topics I've done on this show. Do you really think I'm courting a big audience, trying to get the rock star numbers? Get back to me on that, if you're even still here. Plenty of music you can get about the Rat Pack. Christmas with the Rat Pack, a collection of holiday tunes sung by Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. was released in 2001. This one here, this would be the one to get. The Ultimate Rat Pack Collection, Live and Swingin', went on sale in 2003. And a concert featuring the three, Live from the Sands, is also available on CD. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. On stage, I don't really recommend this usually, but I'll just go ahead and put it up here since it is a thing. The Rat Pack Live from Vegas, a tribute show originated on the stage in London in 2000, has been continuously running since then throughout Europe and North America. But why would you go to that? Why wouldn't you just watch the actual Rat Pack? There's plenty of free and paid Rat Pack on-stage content. There's one of the concerts where Johnny Carson's on stage with him. I mean, it's a big deal. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much all I have to tell you about the Rat Pack. I mean, the Rat Pack that we think of as the Rat Pack wasn't even the original Rat Pack. That original Rat Pack, and I'll say it again, at least from a motion picture star standpoint, arguably more popular than the second Rat Pack, which was largely musicians and Vegas performers who made movies because of their popularity. And without Frank Sinatra, there is no Rat Pack. I mean, I think that is, well, it's intuitively obvious to even the most casual of observers. I can't imagine this show having an ongoing feud with another show. It's, you know. I'm going to stop down here because that's all I got to tell you about the Rat Pack. I'm going to stop down for a second since Olive has made her way in here and earned my chagrin a little bit. These online slap fights and people striking shows, and I've got a beef with this person and they're trashing me and they're disrespecting me and this guy's using my blah, 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 blah. Grow up. I did the news on the radio at really big radio stations and on 2 national news networks. The news is disposable. Unless you break a news story about a world event that will be remembered forever, like 9/11 or something like that, no one's ever going to play your news story over again. 2 cars and 11 people were involved in an accident yesterday morning in the Grand Prairie stretch of 183. Nobody is going to listen to that again. But other shows I have done, shows that are now 15, 16, 17 years old, continue to get listened to. These Dabbleverse shows, all of them that they're doing today, nobody's going to listen to them ever again after today. Or a couple days. Never. And I wonder, a lot of these people that are big fans of the Dabbleverse and watching all these shows and everything, what are you going to say in 20 years about the Dabbleverse? What were you doing in 2026? Well, I spent about 10 hours a week listening to these guys who are all inexplicably mad at each other because they all have the mentality of a 6th grader. And the most disappointing thing to me about the Dabbleverse is that there are a very small few, a handful, of people in the Dabbleverse who are actually talented and interesting to listen to, and they have dived headfirst into the pool of the Dabbleverse for money. Now, in the words of Don Corleone, makes no difference to me how the man makes his living, you understand? If you need the money, by all means, go ahead and do that. But otherwise, you probably would be better off doing something with more of a shelf life than 20 shows making fun of one guy who's not exactly a Rhodes Scholar and being seemingly mystified and astounded when said guy does a silly thing, because he does a silly thing every single day. Oh, you're never going to guess what he did this time. We got his couch. I can't imagine. If you like that sort of thing, and if you don't know what the Dabbleverse is, congratulations, and you're a wonderful person. But I can't imagine. I really can't. I know it's the internet. I know you don't need a lot of people to be interested in something you're doing to have a legitimate audience. But these shows that I'm doing, whether you think they're good or whether you think they're bad, and the ones that I've done in the past, they still get listens. I think it was a month or 6 weeks ago, I did a show on Generation Jones. Just last week, I got a spike in the listenership of that. Somebody shared it, something happened, and people listened to it. All the shows that I do continue to get listened to and watched because they're about a topic. And if somebody's interested in that topic, maybe they'll come by my show and check it out. That's all I'm saying. What was going on in the Dabbleverse 18 months ago? Anybody know? Anybody care? Wade Curtis says, amazing how people tune into something just to put it down. It's one thing to come in wanting to watch and being disappointed, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I don't watch stuff I don't like. Thank you, Wade. It's just, and there's a few of those people, like I said before, that I go, what are you doing? You're so much better than this. You're so much better than this. There's a show that I appear on sometimes that has recently dived back headfirst into the Dabbleverse, and I don't even watch that show anymore. When I see who the guest is and they're Dabbleverse, I just forget it. I'm not, love the guy, love the show, but I'm just not interested. No interest whatsoever at all. And I find things out, you know, things that pop up in my feed or somebody will tell me about it. And I just, look, when I first discovered the Dabbleverse, I was interested in it. But the shows that were in the Dabbleverse were also doing other shows. They weren't just every day 3 hours on a guy that used to be on a big popular radio show and used to be on just never, not my scene, man. Not my scene, man. This show is not designed to necessarily, look, if I wanted to, I could do a show about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or I could do a show about Game of Thrones or true crime or politics. There's a bunch of stuff. Stranger Things. There's a bunch of stuff you can do. If you really want the Kardashians, I mean, there's things you can do shows about that people are going to watch, no matter what. More maybe than this show. But when your weekly lineup on your show is Monday, you have the interstate highway system. By the way, that was yesterday. That was a dynamite show. Today was the Rat Pack. Tomorrow, very excited about this show, New Coke. Remember when Coca-Cola tried to get rid of Coca-Cola? The product that they made there. Why is the light shining through my blinds right into my eyes? I look like somebody in a 1930s horror film. Dracula, look into my eyes. Anyway, that New Coke is what we're going to talk about. And that was Coke's attempt to compete with Pepsi by getting rid of their signature product and creating a new product called New Coke. It was a tremendous disaster. And we'll tell you about it tomorrow. Area 51 we will talk about on Thursday. On Saturday, we will discuss The Shadow. Who knows what evil lurks in the minds of men? The Shadow does. And then on Sunday, we'll talk about the Rockford Files. And let me just say in advance about the Rockford Files. I am good friends with a gentleman named Ed Robertson. He's appeared on this show a number of times. I think I have been interviewing Ed Robertson over the years since 1994. We've had a little professional association. He hosts a radio show that is syndicated across the United States called TV Confidential. He knows old television much better than I ever will. And he is the expert on the Rockford Files and Maverick and other things. I did not contact him as a guest for my show on the Rockford Files. And I thought long and hard about it because Ed probably would have done it. He's a very good guy. The reason I didn't do it, I'm going to try to get Ed on when we do a show about James Garner, because Ed knew James Garner. And he wrote the book, what was it? Is it the Rockford Files Companion or something? I mean, he's the expert. So I almost feel bad doing the show without Ed. But he's a busy guy, and I'd rather have him on for James Garner. The other thing is, when I do a show with Ed, it's going to last 3 hours. There's no question about it. We're going to get on some tangents. But we would then be able to talk the Rockford Files and Maverick and a lot of other things that James Garner did. So that's what's going to happen. But that's what we do here. I don't give out the link. I don't have the phone number anymore. I had those things for a long time. Nobody used them. And little bit unhappy about that, because if somebody's got a beef with me or just wants to bandy words, oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. But they quit doing it because I may have made them look foolish, which is easy to do if they're from the Dabbleverse. I also don't like the Dabbleverse. It's relatively mean-spirited. It's relatively who can do the most socially unacceptable thing to the other person, and then who can feign outrage the greatest, you know. Here's another thing about the Dabbleverse. They have all these rules that don't apply in the real world. Hey, striking people is wrong. Wait a minute, striking people for using your content as nothing but a vehicle to insult you is wrong? What planet do you live on? You don't get to use my stuff. Clipping is good. These clip shows are good. No, what clip shows are ultra non-creative people couldn't make a picture on a piece of construction paper with crayons. Totally non-creative. With tons of free time on their hands because, I don't know, social pariah maybe, who watch all these just ridiculous shows that are an echo of all the other shows. No one's saying anything different, new, interesting. Nobody. And they take from those shows and make their own thing. Why is that good? Now you can go to the Clipper guy to watch my show, or the parts of it you want to watch, rather than having to come to my show. A hot news flash for you. I was the editorial director of a TV network, a big TV network that you've heard of. It's called the Cartoon Network. Do you think the Cartoon Network would allow people to take its cartoons, clip them, put them in a reel, and then say, this is mine now. Watch it here. Do you think that would ever happen? Because if you do, you got to screw loose. Cartoon Network would probably say, no. See, you got to watch it here. or somewhere that we've licensed it to. See, because that's our stuff. So I'm not really in favor of clippers. People are, it's good exposure. Good exposure is the battle cry of people that don't want to pay for things. That's always the way it is. Hey, Tom, we need you to come in and host a week of this show for us. Oh, cool. How much does it pay? Well, it's just it'd be good exposure for you. Great. I'll go to people that sell me car insurance and see if they accept exposure as payment. That's no. Anyway, that's the most I want to talk about the Dabbleverse. But someone did come in and bring it up, sort of, so I mentioned it. By the way, I'll also mention something made me very happy today. My good friend Chris at Not Even a Show, who hasn't done a show in a couple years maybe, had a young child, and I don't know. Apparently he chose to prioritize his family. He did another Not Even a Show today, and it was glorious. It was like old times, but I'm very glad to know that he and his 2-year-old son and whatnot are doing great. Leon Kennedy says the amount of times people have tried to pay me an exposure when they want me to write a damn book for them or something. Yeah. And Leon has created the songs for this show on his own, just as a nice guy. I never offered to pay him in anything. Ever. I'm on record for that. I do suggest that we find a way, though, that people can I want to see Leon creating songs like this that he does for me, for other people, for money. See, that's what I want. That's what I want. I would pay him if I could. But this show doesn't make any money. If this show made money, Leon Kennedy says, Tom paid me in Gully coin. I paid him in Bit Gully. Tragedy befell me today. I removed from my refrigerator what I thought was a can of Dr. Pepper Blackberry Zero. About 2 weeks ago, I bought a product that is vile, but the cans are somewhat similar when viewed from above. That's not the first time I've said that. And I accidentally pulled out one of those and didn't taste it till the show started because I put it in this thing here. And it's Pepsi, zero sugar, cherry, and cream soda. And it is terrible. So imagine you're expecting that refreshing blast of Dr. Pepper Blackberry Zero, and you get the... Big announcement to make. The show will be going on hiatus for a period of time that I can't tell you right now. Don't panic. It's not ending. It's that I don't have to, but I'm going to be moving. And I'm not going to be moving a short distance. I will be moving thousands of miles from where I currently live. And that will take a number of days. Right now, I don't know how many. I don't know. I mean, I know how long the move will take, but then it's when will they install the internet and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know specifically when that move will actually be taking place. It could happen anytime, oh gosh, from the 27th of this month to the 27th of next month. But when it does happen, I will let you know. And I will probably do a few very short update broadcasts from the road or from where I'm at. So that's just an update that will be occurring. That'll be happening. So I think that's all I got. And I'm sorry to have gone on the Dabbleverse diatribe, but, and I also want to make it really clear again, when I first found out about the Dabbleverse, I'll just be very explicit. I found out through the Shuley Network. At the time, the Shuley Network was doing a morning show that lightly had something to do with Stuttering John, but was mostly morning show-ish, stories and clips and things like that. And then Uncle Rico, I would watch that once in a while, and Auntie Kevin. And I appeared on a few of their shows, and Point Dabble Point and things of that nature. Not many. I got kind of tired of it pretty quick. It's like the same show every... Hey, what's... And those guys are super talented, by the way, without question. But all of these shows at some point become the same show. Leon Kennedy says, it's okay, everyone hates the Dabbleverse. They become the same show. Can you believe what so-and-so did? I'm right, and he's wrong, and it's different when I do it, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I got out of that in 6th grade. And some of the most, I'm just saying, ignorant people I've ever seen. I'm not going to lie. Occasionally, I'll light upon one of those shows and immediately wish I was on it so I could lambaste the person. The people on those shows. See, I'm from the world of news and of mass communications and advertising. I need proof of things. You can't just say something like, clearly, blah, 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 blah. Everybody knows blah, 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 blah. Well, he's obviously been blah, 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 blah. Proof. Show me proof. Tell me proof about how you know this. And it's not just your cudgel to beat that person with that has absolutely no connection to proof, facts, reality, truth, none. Zip, zero, zilch. You got nothing. You'd be laughed out of the room in any serious discussion of people with serious money doing serious things if you could get in the room, which you couldn't. So, I'm sorry. Got my dander up. I'm going to finish the show out with, put a 1 in the chat if you'd like to hear That's the Point, my friend, you saw it land. And put a 2 in the chat if you'd like to hear I'm Still On. There's not many people left here today because I'm ranting, but whichever one you want, that's the one I'm going to play, and we're going to get out of here. Tomorrow, of course, I'm excited to tell you about New Coke. New Coke. The attempt to destroy Coca-Cola's flagship product for 100 years or whatever it was. Okay, nobody's telling what song they'd like. So I'm going to play I'm Still On, masterfully created by... You know what? I could play just another song. I don't have to play one of these big band songs. There's nothing that says I do. Oh, I think I'll play this one. Wade Curtis says he wants to hear I'm Still On. Okay, it's a listener request. I'll honor it. All right, kids, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. It says I got an Amscray. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And with all that being said, you guys rock. I may not be chasing Dabbleverse views and dollars. We, again, did not reach our goal of any amount of money. But who cares? We're doing a show. And you guys do rock. I appreciate you being here. This is a show for people that, number one, want to just happen by. 85% of the people that listen to this show are first-time listeners. So they're probably attracted by the topic. Okay? And then there's people like yourselves, I assume, who just want to hear about something different every day. That's what this is. That's what this is. It's also, I think this is interesting. Me, personally, Tom Gulley, I'm just going to do a show on it. I might do a show on salad dressing. I don't care. It was whatever I think. And with all that being said, and especially for our good friend, the chef says, the one that mentions me. I don't remember which one that is, chef, but I think that one is Once You Go Gully. I'll play that tomorrow in the intro. But it's either Once You Go Gully or it's Happy to Be Here, one of the two. I'll figure it out. For our good friend Wade Curtis, good night, Gracie. Our good friend Wade Curtis, we're going to end the show with this song. And that means the only thing left to say is, luck be a lady tonight. Love that song. The only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.
They said the night was crowded, too many voices in the room. Some burn bright for a moment, some fade out far too soon. I've watched the doors swing open, I felt them close just as fast. You learn to mind your footing on a floor made out of glass. I've been counted out, I've been counted wrong. I've heard the doubts get loud and strong. When the lights go out and I play that song, I'm still on. I've had nights full of promise, I've had days that wouldn't end. Some chase the sound of thunder, some wait for trends to bend. I've seen the door swing wide open, I've seen them slam just as fast. You learn to move with some caution on a surface built to crash. Talk about the past, let them say it doesn't last.